Hello, algebra students. Welcome back to our second part of function notation. We started a little bit of function notation before Thanksgiving break and talked about how to evaluate. Today, we're going to expand upon that just a little bit further. Again, our targets for this section are that we can find a value when using function notation if we're given various representations. Either we're given an input or we might be given an output. And can we write an equation for a function using function notation? Can we replace the y with f of x? And so that's really what we're talking about. And so I've got some examples here that I want to talk about and work through. The first one is about Robert Wadlow, the tallest person in medical history whose height has been verified. Sources are down here. Here he is. The table below gives his height, which we're going to call h, his height, at various ages a, right, for every year. So the year is the input. When I input a year, I get out some certain height that he might be. And in this case, his height is in meters, okay? And so what we have is a function, right? Notice they're using h and a instead of our typical y and x. So this first question, when they're asking us to find the f of 16, right? 16, if you look at the way that this is written, 16 is the actual a value. So what is his height? We're asking here his height is the question mark at 16 years old. What would his height be? So if I go to the table and I look at 16 years of age, his height would have been 2.4 meters. The second question is a little bit different though. For what value of a? What value of a? So what age, right? What age does the function equal 2.7? F of a equals 2.7. That's the h. At what age is his height 2.7? We go to the table. When is he 2.7 meters tall? The age would have been 22 years old. And so we have to understand the context of the problem as well as what they're asking us given the function notation. We have to try and relate those two together using tables, using graphs, things that look different than just straight plugging numbers in. Okay, here's the second example, and most of these are coming all out of your packet. And this one really isn't more of an example. It's more of trying to help you understand what are you looking for. Okay, the clue on this first one here for letter D is that it is asking you for what value of x does the function equal 15? What value of x does a certain function equal 15? And here's what it's actually looking for you. You would be substituting in 15 for the y value part and trying to figure out or solve for x. Like which x value? If I were to plug in an x value, would I get out that 15? Whereas the other way that we look at it is to say find f of 15. Meaning I would be plugging 15 in for all of the x values and trying to see what output or what y value I would get. And so you've got to know the difference in those two, right? Because they're two different questions with two different answers. So be careful for how they're written, right? I would make this an important note. So, somewhere that you have your notes for section or chapter 7, I would make sure that you are writing this piece down. What value of x means I'm substituting this part in for y, and I'm trying to find the x, where here, f of 15, that is the x, and it really equals some y value. So I plug in the 15 to try and figure that out. So let's look at what that might look like in the form of a table, perhaps, okay? The table below shows the centimeters of rainfall in a given town on day X of the month. Day X. So that means this is day. The X values are telling me are the day, and this is the rain. First question, what is the value of R2? Notice they replaced X with 2. They plugged 2 in for the input. So I need to look at this row right here, right? What is the value? How much rain did they get on 2 days? The answer here is 4 centimeters, okay? We are looking for the output. Let me go back to a problem here, right? When it's like this, in this case it was R of 2, substitute that in for X. So when I substitute 2 in for X, what was the output? Of 4. Letter B, on what day did they have 10 centimeters of rainfall? 10 centimeters of rainfall happened on the 4th day. On the 4th day. Now the last one says find the X value if R of X equals 2. Remember from our previous slide, this would be the Y value or the output. Okay, Y value or the output. So where was the output to? Right here. So what was the X value? The input was 1, or day number 1. So it's understanding, again, trying to understand in a sense how the problem is set up and what it's asking you for. Okay, last example, we're going to go to a graph. Okay, remember, graphs are all about X, Y, input, outputs, right? It's always X comma Y, or input, output to help us. First one, find G of -6. G of -6. That means the X value is -6. So if I go as the X value of -6, it's asking me what is the Y value on the graph. So I'm going to go on my X, and I'm going to go over here to -6, and I'm going to see where does the graph cross this X -6, and it's going to be all the way right there where that blue dot is. Right there. Which means the Y value was 7. So 7. Right? Because that's this ordered pair right here. And it's the only one on the graph, -6, 7. G of 1. Okay, see if you can figure out G of 1. If the X value is 1, what's the Y value? So I'm going to go to 1. Right, here's the origin. I'm going to go to 1, and I got to go all the way down here to -7. So it is -7, right? We would have had the point 1, -7. Now, letter C is slightly different because it's asking us if this is true or false. Does G of -4 equal 3? What ordered pair should we use to test this, right? We need an ordered pair. Well, the -4 is my X. The 3 is my Y. So I'm going to see if that's a point on the line on this graph. Okay, here's the origin. I'm going to go over to -4, 1, 2, 3, and you bet it sure is on the line. That point is then true, right? But the important part in all of this is knowing that this was our X and this was our Y. Just like in the first two, X, so we were looking for Y. And that's the biggest takeaway from today's lesson is understanding which one's for the X versus which one's for the Y and what you're truly trying to find. As always, if you have questions, please make sure that you reach out as we do have a test coming up on Thursday of this week, domain, range, functions, as well as function notation. Till next time, everyone, stay safe.